Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, and I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this. Breaking and trending news here in Chaos Corner for show number 24, live to tape, same day coverage. It's our final show of the year, fans. Show number 24. A lot of breaking and trending news. As I said, we're 10, 12, maybe 15 feet below the surface of the earth here in Chaos Corner. We do have a few fans here, so I'm thankful and humbled and privileged and honored for that. This is our final show, as I said, of 2020. Looking forward to 2021. So I just want to thank everyone for being here on a Sunday for Chaos Corner. We're going to go over a lot of different things here on show number 24. I want to talk about and review the people that have passed away in the year of 2020. We're also going to talk about today in pro wrestling history. We're going to have a menagerie of certain stories and a flashback in the history of pro wrestling. But the most important thing here on show number 24, impromptu, live to tape, same day coverage, is we're going to talk about the passing, especially recently, of Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, aka John Huber. So fans, stay tuned for show number 24. We're happy to have you here. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone and whatever you celebrate out there. We're hanging tough. The calendar's getting ready to flip into 2021. We're here in the IWC podcast land with yours truly. So stay tuned. We're jumping over to Twitter. We're going right to YouTube, Guardian of Chaos. Hit the profile link. Don't go anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. All right, fans. Welcome back to Guardian of Chaos on YouTube. I hope you hit the profile link. Follow my boys over at the show, and that's at Mario_Chaos. If you're not using them as a tool to put your brand out there, as it says on the profile at the show, they're there to put you over. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what to explain to you going into 2021. This is the last show of the year, show number 24. Well, what are you doing? It's chaos here on show number 24. I'm trying to keep spirits high. We've lost a lot of people here in 2020. We know it's been a really lousy, nasty, disgusting, disturbing, realistic year to open up your eyes. And I don't want to be a downer here. You see, I got the music going. I'm appreciative and thankful that everyone's here. We haven't been here in about a week. But thank you for being here. Let me lower this down a little bit here because we're unedited, unscripted, live to tape. As I always said, I want to keep it low, but we're here to talk about especially what's happened recently. It's across the timeline. It's breaking and trending news, and that's why I covered here on Chaos Corner. The passing yesterday of Brody Lee, from AEW, a.k.a. Luke Harper from the WWE, a.k.a. in real life John Huber, at the age of only 41 years old. Supposedly it was from a lung issue. His wife and his family said it was definitely not related to COVID. So I want to put that out there. That's what it was, came across my timeline. So I want to start show number 24 on a solemn note, and I'm going to go through the list of people that have passed this year, not just in the IWC, not just in the pro wrestling world, but just in general, people in the mainstream media and athletes. And so this will be a show that will be a celebration, a remembrance, if you will. We'll try to keep it positive, but our thoughts and prayers to everyone out there through this year that have lost someone due to the pandemic or accident or natural causes or any other way that you may have lost someone. So let's start off there first. Also in this same day, another legend, much older, passed, and that's legit Greco-Roman style legend, Danny Hodge, passed away at 88 years old. Now, fans, you know him from the Wrestling Hall of Fame. So our thoughts and condolences. I found that out also through the Cauliflower Alley Club, and that's what the CAC does. And that's why they have the reunion every year, is to give to the families and to the people that have passed and paved the way before us, because that's what it's really all about in the pro wrestling business and about this in life and in the world and reality. It's giving back. So that's where we start. because those were the two most recent. And I want to read a statement here. Again, hopefully this is part one. And we don't get any technical difficulties. I always tell you the Wi-Fi connection and everything that goes on here at Chaos Corner. But so we'll say part one in case there's a part two of Chaos Corner. It's great to be back. December 27th. What a year, huh? Retrospective, and that's why I'm doing this. So I don't think I'll be back for another show before the beginning of the year, but you never know. And I really wanted to do this and put this out there. I'm having a couple of issues myself, all the years and the punishment behind the walls and in the ring, taking the bumps. And as the most notorious manager, it's just different things that we deal with. But we're hanging tough. We're doing things the right way, and we're staying fitness strong, mindfulness, and this is what it's all about. But I want to get back on to what we're talking about here on show number 24 of Chaos Corner. And as in regards to Brody Lee, a lot of statements have come across. People have seen it on their social media, whether it be on Twitter and Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube, all the different big websites and the dirt sheets and just regular people in general. And I want to read a statement from Bray Wyatt that I found because he was the closest to Brody Lee, John Huber, Luke Harper. You fans know what I'm talking about. Those are his kayfabe names and his real name. And obviously he was a husband and he had a son and he was a father. And hopefully someday I want to read this heartfelt thing here at the beginning of Chaos Corner. I'm going to keep the music going on for as long as it will get through the connection here, fans. So stay with me. It's from Bray Wyatt in regards to the passing of an only 41 years old Brody Lee. This is Bray Wyatt saying this to John Huber, a.k.a. Brody Lee. And obviously we know Bray Wyatt's real last name is Rotunda. Thank you, fans, for being here. I greatly appreciate it. It means a lot. You were my best friend, my brother, my partner, my Terry Gordy. We changed this whole game because we refused to do it any way but our way. We were always at our best as a team. I think we both knew that. I'm so goddamn pissed. This was how it was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be us. It was supposed to be us like this, fat, bald, and useless, running Wyatt family spots in high school gyms in our 70s. Where do we go now? What do I do? Knowing I'll never hear you, condescending sarcasm as I'm riding high. I miss you so fucking much already. I would do anything just to live through our worst moments again. I can't believe you're gone. I'm so sorry, brother. I'm so sorry. You will always be a part of me, whether I like it or not. Without you, everything is different. And I hope Amanda truly knows that I'm here, not just to say it, but because I love them too. I will make sure your son knows the incredible man you were. Not the legends people will tell, but the real you that very few people get to see. I promise I'll put him over clean in dark matches when he's old enough, just like I promised. I'm hurting so bad I wish I had a chance to say goodbye. But then again, it's Sunday. You know what that means. Save me a seat next to you, wherever you are. That's where I belong. I'll be there when it's my time. That's a quote from Bray Wyatt in regards to the passing of Luke Harper, Brody Lee, a.k.a. John Huber, at 41 years old. Thoughts and prayers, may he rest in peace. So that's how we start show number 24 here at Chaos Corner. And again, we mentioned also on the same day, Danny Hodge at 88 years old. This is our end of the year show, fans. Please go out and follow me on YouTube, Guardian of Chaos, Twitter, at Big Daddy GOC. And the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos. Hit that profile link that'll knock you over to here at YouTube. Follow my boys over at the show, and it's at Mario_Chaos. They do a lot of work over there and help me out. Again, as I said, follow me on Twitter, on YouTube, on Gab, on Parlor, on Instagram. It's all at Big Daddy GOC, at GOC Big Daddy. You get the drift. Hit the like button, subscribe, tap the bell. I'll throw all that out there. I want to give a big shout out to my boy who helps me get through these different shows here on the Guardian of Chaos YouTube channel, and that would be my buddy Mr. Hempel Stilskin over at sweetheal.com, and that would be for Sweet Heal CBD. All your inflammation needs, all your anxiety needs, your sleep issues, your insomnia, your injuries, your wellness, CBD products at their best in the Constitution State. Support your local small independent owners and small entrepreneurs that are being crushed by this pandemic, especially here in the Constitution State of all places. So it's locally owned, locally grown, legally licensed. Mr. Hempel Stilskin, Sweet Heal CBD at sweetheal.com. I don't go a day without it. I have it right now as we speak here, live to tape, and you'll see it later on today. I have it on my left knee. I have it on my right hip. I have it on my lower back. I have it on my right shoulder. That's what Sweet Heal does for the Guardian of Chaos. You're a two-time Hall of Famer, nominated for a third. And I think I just won the something Clifton, the Gordy Clifton Award. I was nominated in the top 3 in the Northeast New England tri-state. I don't know. I don't know what the award is. Gordy Clifton Award, as far as the IWC. Somebody help me out there. I'll try to find out from the show, but it's the first annual, second biannual, something to that effect. I'm as confused as a baby at Hooters. I mean, I really am. Let's get on, fans. We have to throw a little levity in there during this episode here, because again, we're going to cover those who have passed here in the year of 2020 and what a lousy year. And it all started off back in January. I'm not going to go through any particular order, fans, and just thoughts and condolences in a little one-word sentence. If you want to leave a comment, if you want to email me, again, thank you. Leave something in the comment section. You can always email me, and that's at Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2. That's right, Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2. at yahoo.com. Let's bring a little levity here before we get going here. A little shout out to, we're still looking for the sponsor. I got to pep it up here, and we're going to make this a celebration of memories. So thanks for being here on a Sunday. I greatly appreciate it. See, we have a lot going on. We do have a live studio. So we were talking about Brody Lee. It stunned everyone. I was even saying on this podcast, you go back and you look back at the shows where I cover AEW Dynamite on the regular, and I was wondering where Brody Lee had been for the Dark Order. And I was wondering about his gimmick and why he hadn't been on TV, and now we come to find out. So this is just horrible, tragic news that has shook the IWC and the wrestling world, and that's why I had to report on this. So also here, we know that we just lost at 79 years old from the WWE Hall of Famer, Pat Patterson. Recently, at 58 years old from lymphoma back in October, Tracy Smothers. We also lost earlier this year, the beginning of 2020, we lost La Parka II, not to be confused with the original La Parka, but he had one heck of a feud with the original La Parka. La Parka, too, was injured in the ring doing a stunt, okay, again, lucha libre style. He hit his head on the guardrail. He ended up being paralyzed and had a brain injury. So that's what happened, and that's how we started off 2020. With, everyone at first was confused. It wasn't the original from Mexico, it was the original La Parka, who went on to WCW and ECW fame. But no, this is a relation. This is La Parka II, who passed away. And again, as a direct result of being in the ring, and I talk about this all the time, fans, when it comes to that. So again, we started off 2020 in a tough year. We also know what happened later on in that year. Again, it chokes you up a little bit, fans. It happened in May out in Venice, and that would be at only 39 years old, and that would be Shad Gaspard, who was saving his son out in Venice Beach out there on a day. Again, we had at the beginning stages of this pandemic, just out there with his wife and his son, and taken away by that horrible riptide that's known for out there in Southern California. And then the year just kept tumbling. And we also know that not a few weeks earlier than that, we lost the legend of LeBron James. That's a Freudian slip. Let me not say that. Kobe Bryant fans, forgive me for saying that. A Freudian slip here on Chaos Corner, show number 24. Kobe Bryant fans, and with his daughter early on in the year. So, and this was very close to it, and it really hit the LA communities in the West Coast and then just the world in general. Kobe was a national, international name, and then throw in how young Gaspard was and what he meant to the WWE. So that was a double dip there. The horrible helicopter tragedy with Kobe, and again, forgive me for before fans. And then Shad Gaspard really rocked the world. Let's throw in, and I didn't know her personally, but a young lady at 22 years old from Japan, and this was earlier in the year in May, and it was from suicide. And I say it all the time when it comes to bullying and the pandemic and what it's done to a lot of different people. And Hana Kimura over in Japan. Again, for all my fans over there, and again, this is not a work. All my fans over in Japan, konnichiwa. Hana Kimura was being bullied, cyber bullied, 22 years old, had become a famous young lady, a grappler, if you will, and it couldn't take the fame and the bullying and all the stuff that she got on social media, and how unfortunate to commit suicide, which leads to the pandemic, whether it be the divorce rates, the suicide rates, the alcoholism, the death rates of what's happening in this country. That's another story for another time. Also, another legend that passed away this summer, and that fans may not know him unless you're old enough, but you know of the family, and that would be the legendary Tough Man, who was also a fireman and served this country as a Marine. Semper Fi, hoo-wah! And that would be Bullet Bob Armstrong, WWE Hall of Famer from the Peach State down there in Georgia. The Armstrong family, legends in this business, and there was none tougher than Bullet Bob Armstrong, who we lost at 80 years old. Let's also go to another Hall of Famer who has a big connection to the current time, especially to the mainstream media and to the elites and to Hollywood, and that would be the original Rock, and that would be Rocky Johnson. Earlier in the year, we started off 2020, we talk about what happened to people that went in January. La Parka 2, we talk about Hana Kimura, we talk about now Rocky Johnson, who was around in the WWF and the professional wrestling community just in general from the 60s into the 90s. The first ever black tag teams in professional wrestling history, and that would be with Mr. USA, Tony Atlas, when they were the Soul Patrol. So, I mean, the Rocky was only 79 years old, was in tremendous shape. We know the connection. He's Dwayne Johnson's dad. We know that. He was a legend himself, in great shape. So, we lost Rocky at the beginning of the year. Recently, here in this month, again, I talk about the people in December. We just talked about Brody Lee, a.k.a. John Huber, and we talk about the legend of Danny Hodge. We also lost another man who was connected not only to the IWC and to the wrestling community, the wrestling world, but also to Hollywood, and that would be Tiny Lister, Zeus. Now, everybody knows him from his days of being in the movies from Friday and Next Friday, and he was in many other movies, too numerous to mention here. That Tiny Lister was in. He was in all kinds of bit parts, and he still has movies that have yet to come out. So, at only 62 years old, and I don't know, someone, and the rumors are saying across the timeline, it might have been COVID-19, complications from it. With other complications, the story isn't totally out there. But who could forget Tiny Lister and the impact? He was also in WCW briefly, had a major impact and was a major role player in Hollywood. And then in 1989 with No Holds Barred with Hogan, he helped push it into the mainstream and to Hollywood. And who could forget the match between Zeus and when he teamed up with the Macho Man Randy Savage against Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake, back when the days were really rolling for McMahon and SummerSlam of '89. So that's one of the thoughts that comes right to your head with Zeus, and we'll get on to other things when it comes to this day in history with No Holds Barred. But again, a tremendous actor, another one who went way before his time at 62 years old. Another gentleman who I had a chance to work with and had a connection. We've been on several shows and in locker rooms, and James Harris, That may not ring a bell to normal people, but it's Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Again, his feud in the 80s with The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, one of the true big men, allegedly died of a heart attack. He debuted in 1984, all the way up to 2006. I think I worked with him in '03 and '04. So he was still going. He passed away this year at 70 years old. Some people have rumored COVID. It's been rumored with a lot of different people connected, whether it be Tiny Lister, family says no, rumors, and you know how rumors, speculation, and innuendo is. That now we hear this also now COVID related, but no one knows for sure when it comes to Kamala. Who knows what's science and what that's politics? I don't really want to get into that. I'll report on what I think I know and from my sources. So we'll keep it at that. Show number 24, live to tape, same day coverage. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate that. We're running down those who have passed here in the year of 2020, and we know what a year 2020 has been. Man, has it sucked. But thank God for you out there, and thank God for the IWC, the community in general, and that we're there for each other to get through this, because I think we got this licked, but we have to pay homage to those who didn't make it out. Okay, and as I was never in the military, but the saying is you never leave a brother behind. And that's the saying in pro wrestling too. And it's the saying here for the Guardian of Chaos in life. And that's a shoot, brother. Also, who could forget earlier in the year the Hall of Famer and the unbelievable voice of the World Wrestling Federation at only 69 years old, and that would be one Howard Finkel. Howard passed away of a stroke in April. He had had some health issues for a while. An unbelievable man, an unbelievable person. I've never heard or read anything bad about Howard Finkel, who came up with so many coins and phrases, including WrestleMania. That's right. Howard Finkel, the voice of the WWF, coined the phrase WrestleMania. At 69 years old, he passed away this year. Who could forget the one or two times that Howard stepped in the ring? Again, I like to bring levity. That's what I do here at Cass Corner. When he actually took on Harvey Whippleman. And you remember Whippleman, he's got the brain of a dehydrated BB, the brain of a turnbuckle, the pencil neck geek. And that's the only one I stole. My apologies, Fred Blassie. But yeah, Finkel and Harvey Whippleman. Listen, Finkel, I remember him at the Garden, at the Coliseum, all the different places, and just watching him on TV as a young man into someone who's middle-aged. Howard Finkel was just incredible, and what a big loss that was to the community. He's also a member of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's right. Joe Bruin's New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, which I was inducted to last year in a class of 2019, along with folks like Gary Michael Capetta, Bill Apter, J.J. Dillon was there, Romeo Rosselli, and Antonio Thomas from the Heartthrobs. I mean, there were so many different stars that were there. I can't even remember all the different legends I went into from media folks like Jeff Katz and just so many different grapplers that were so instructional to the people in the business, and the people have put investment. They've made it into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and that's the credibility that comes with the being in something like that. And to have Finkel there as presenters before in the past for Joe Bruin, it really puts the credibility onto the product and the brand of the Fan Fest and New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So grateful to have a connection there. And again, Howard, a true legend in this business, one of the good guys, and there's not a lot of them. Also, from a tragic story, independent grappler, only 45 years old. His wife may have been younger, and that would be back in June over the summertime. He was known for his death matches, and that would be one Danny Havoc of independent fame, passed away at only 45 years old. His wife had passed away 3 months earlier from heart failure, so our thoughts and condolences. Way too young. Independent grappler Danny Havoc and his wife back this summer. 2020, really a terrible year. As I run through the list, who could forget, and I have a personal connection, running into them and running with them, so to speak, back in the late 80s in WCW through the Samoan SWAT team, and my boy there, Big Len, and that would be one, Joe Laurinaitis, and that would be Animal from the Road Warriors, and then being able to hook up with them in Northeast. And to have Joe Laurinaitis at 60 years old, who was not a known carouser or partier, was a family man, incredible shape, a guy that was still doing performances and appearances now, and just never heard a bad thing about Joe Laurinaitis, Road Warrior Animal, the legendary Road Warriors, the toughest sons of bitches to ever lace a pair of boots. So to have him pass away at a convention, on the hotel, on the road, or on vacation at only 60 years old, you could imagine Road Warrior Animal, who has influenced perhaps the best ever Hall of Famer tag teams, and now he's with Hawk, and the best tag team on Earth in the universe is now the best tag team in heaven. But what a shock! 2020 and the people that we lost in Road Warrior Animal couldn't have been a bigger loss for the community, and who was so active and touched so many lives. So I look at the different people, and I've mentioned just yesterday, Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, Danny Hodge, Pat Patterson, Tracy Smothers, La Parker 2, Shad Gaspard, Road Warrior Animal, Kamala the Ugandan Giant, Rocky Johnson, Hana Kimura, Bullet Bob Armstrong, Zeus Tiny Lister, Danny Havoc, Mrs. Danny Havoc, Howard Finkel. Also, I want to mention this, another indie wrestler from Mexico, but only 39 years old. And from what I understand through my history, my research, my facts, and you know that I have a lot of deep underground connections, Black Demon, at 39 years old, passed away from complications due to COVID. As far as I know, the only professional wrestler and indie grappler that died strictly from COVID that's been diagnosed here in North America would be the Black Demon, an indie grappler from Mexico at 39 years old. I want to throw it out there. The facts are the facts. That's what I do here. So we've run down the folks that have passed, and I have a list of many others that I must mention, one with another, again, a personal connection, and that would be one Juan John Xavier, who I had a chance to manage in the 2000s, a brother who was an unbelievable athlete in boxing, mixed martial arts, five-tool player, pro wrestler, pro grappler, anything that you could think of. This man was entertainment personified at only 42 years old, Juan Xavier. And if you remember Xavier, back in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, we were running in the late 90s into the early 2000s. That's when he defeated another guy, again, low key in Ring of Honor. So if I'm not mistaken, Xavier defeated Low Key for the Ring of Honor belt in 2002. But what a family man, way too young. Again, a guy, nothing but great and good things about Juan Xavier. John Bedoya, if you will, father, left a young son. And again, hearts, prayers, condolences throughout this whole first almost 30 minutes, 29 minutes of Chaos Corner, show number 24, for all these folks that I'm mentioning. And I know I'm throwing in a little bit of jokes, a little bit of levity, some solemnness, some celebration, some stories, some memories. That's what I'm trying to do here. This was spur of the moment. Show number 24. I wanted to make it something special, something different before we get into the new year and remember those that were here with us. And let's not forget about them. Never forget. So Xavier, again, passed this summer in August, I believe. We'll throw out some mainstream guys. I already talked about Kobe Bryant. And again, the Freudian slip of the king there, James. That's because it was a note thing and I ad-lib everything. When I do notes, I fuck up. When I ad-lib, I'm dead balls on. So again, also just recently, and we'll talk about some very famous people before we get back into the IWC and the pro wrestling world. Thank you for being here, Twitter Universe. Thank you, more importantly, YouTube. We're growing like you wouldn't believe. Chaos Corner. So I'd like to recognize people that have had connections with the business and that had an effect on my life in general. Again, we talked about Kobe Bryant, how devastating. Let's talk about because we get behind closed doors. A song that was probably one of my best country hits as a young man growing up, and that would be the legendary Charlie Pride. So our thoughts and prayers. That was just recently. We lost a legend, country music star Charlie Pride. Also, who could forget Alex Trebek, due to cancer. He went on and fought an unbelievable battle. He worked right through it to his final days. Who could forget Jeopardy, another influential show that has changed the culture of the country, the world, and America? And our thoughts and condolences to one Alex Trebek, a true pioneer, which leads me into another pioneer and a gentleman who was connected strongly to the world of professional wrestling and just to everyday life and came into everyone's homes and to millions of people every day. And that would be one Regis Philbin. Now, fans, if for you younger fans, and again, I realize I'm the over 50 demo god, and a lot of my audience is between 18 and 40. I get it. Do your research here. Go back and check out people like Charlie Pride, Alex Trebek, Regis Philbin. Go back and check out these folks and their history. And again, these people that I'm mentioning and talking that have passed away that leave such a legacy. And just by them being mentioned here on my show, that shows you that it's a legacy that could never be taken away, that'll live on forever in a small way here on Chaos Corner. So Regis Philbin, big impact on the wrestling world, a big impact on daytime TV. So to lose those legends in Hollywood and mainstream that were, guys in their 80s, such legends, Charlie Pride, Trebek, Philbin, really an impact on the world and on the country. Let's also throw out people that we lost who meant something to me personally or to the world or to their families. At least we know that much. I want to throw out there people that you may not know, but research them because they're all legends. They all have a legacy. That's why they're being mentioned here by the GOC. Pampero Firpo, legendary wild man from the 50s and 60s into the 70s. Unbelievable grappler in the territory. His family, phenomenal people that follow me on social media, and I follow them back. And that would be the legendary wild man, the wild bull from the Pamplonas. And that would be Pampero Firpo. That's right. Pampero Firpo, as I like to say. And if you want to know what he really looks like, and you can't want to get an updated version, he looks like a guy that I know personally who's a lawyer in Manhattan and one hell of an athlete and pro wrestler, and that would be one Mick Drake. So if you look up Mick Drake and compare him to Pampero Firpo, you'll see they kind of look alike. So rest in peace, and out to his family. All seriousness, he was an unbelievable legend. Great in the territory days and a person that was no one to be trifled with. So rest in peace, Pampero Firpo. Also from the WWF days, an unbelievable jobber. Back to the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, that would be one Silvano Sousa. I also want to recognize another gentleman who was big in the business and passed away in 2020, and that would be Killer Tim Brooks. Also, just recently, a big connection to WCW and to pro wrestling in general, and was a Hall of Famer in the NFL and pro wrestling from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Los Angeles Rams, Super Bowl champion, and that would be one Kevin Green, way too early in his 50s. Kevin Green had a big impact in the pro wrestling world, came in with Mongo McMichael, and actually did pretty well for himself, was a hell of an athlete, certainly was one hell of an NFL player, a Hall of Famer. So Kevin Green also in 2020, legendary writer and front office personnel for Impact, and that would be one Mitch Ryder in his 60s. He was sick for a while, had health issues, so our thoughts and prayers with Impact and the family of Mitch Ryder. Also another legend in the business, and you got to research and go back and hit DuckDuckGo or Google or whatever it is for you, millennials, Xers, Zers, whatever you're calling yourself. Rip Oliver also passed away. Recognition also to Steve Casey from World Class Days. Justice Payne, another grappler, a monster from the independent scene. I also like to recognize a female grappler who was had connections with and were on the same shows, and that would be one Kat LaRue. Those are the people. Also, another person who I happened to manage and had connections with, and way too young. Another one of the good ones, and he passed in November from leukemia, and that would be R.J. the Bruiser Myers. That's right, the Bruiser from Maryland Championship Wrestling. R.J. Myers. He helped develop stars like Leo Rush, Velveteen Dream. And I had the chance to work with the Bruiser at least a handful of times on many shows across the Northeast and across the country. So our thoughts and prayers with the folks down at MCW and the family of the Bruiser. One hell of a man, one tough son of a bitch. So those are also people that have passed away in 2020. Again, Alex Trebek, Regis Philbin, Charlie Pride, Kobe Bryant and his daughter. God, I still can't. And Silvano Sousa, Tim Brooks, the killer Tim Brooks, Pampiro Firpo, Kat LaRue, the Bruiser, Kevin Green, Xavier, Mitch Ryder, Rip Oliver, Steve Casey, Justice Payne. Also, another female grappler that you may know, do your research, was very famous as a lady grappler, female talent, Native American, and legendary once you hear the name, and that would be one Winona Littleheart. That's right, Winona Littleheart also passed away in 2020. So if you look at the list of people affected and who they affect and the names and the people that we've lost and the statement, if that statement from Bray Wyatt doesn't break your heart, I don't know what does. AKA Rotunda, you know that. Everyone's related. So fans, show number 24. We're 37 minutes in. I'm live to tape, same day coverage. I'm glad that you're here. You know, end of the year with this, a celebration, yes. Memorial, yes. Tribute, yes. A little bit of a downer, yes. But we're going to try to change the pace. And I just felt like I had to, especially with the names and the people that have passed. Hey, listen, 2020 is no different than any other year when it comes to famous people and people that have affected us and loved ones and people that we've lost. We all know that. But 2020 is different, and we don't know what 2021 is going to bring. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. I still have things to say. I come out here and I talk about wrestling, but I have a lot of things to say, whether it be about social justice, whether it be about COVID, whether it be about politics, whether it be about life in general. But thanks for being here. Coming up 40 minutes in, show number 24. I mean, where else are you going to get stuff like this? And again, once you get through the year 20 into 2021, we really have been banging out shows. We've been averaging anywhere from a half dozen to 10 a month, 2 or 3 times a week through the holidays, and a couple of injuries here. We settled back a little bit, but we'll be back in the saddle. Expect a couple of shows at least a week moving forward into 2021. A lot of plans, hooking up with a lotto, merging with a lot of other people, always having content. But one thing for sure, for sure, that the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, tells it like it is. And I'll say that to say this, that I'll fucking be here. I will be here for you. The likes, the subscribes, the views, everything is shooting through the roof on all social media platforms. I will be here for you, to listen to you, to give you the honesty, the truth, the information, unedited, unscripted, no pause buttons, live to tape. I don't edit anything. What you see is what you get here. And I'll say that to say this. Let's get on to show 24. Again, amen. Rest in peace to all those we lost here in 2020. And it's not over yet, fans. It's not over yet. I want to talk about a couple of different things here that I've had lined up and written down. We talked about different things here to open it up here on a Sunday show. We're going to get on to some things in history. I don't really have a lot of notes. I don't like notes. I jot things down just in case. But I want to talk about, since we're here on December 27th, live to tape, same day coverage, we're going to talk about this week in history this day in history before we get out of here. And again, an amen, thoughts and prayers to everyone out there. The birth of Christ, holiday season, whatever you celebrate, your family, your friends, your religion, your race, your color, your creed, your culture, your beliefs, you're an American. And I just want to thank and throw that out there before we get on to and transition and bless everyone that came before us and stay happy and healthy. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. So here we go. Show number 24. This day in history. Do your research, fans. I'm big on history. I'm big on research. 1967. Johnny Valentine defeats Joe Scarpa. Does the name ring a bell? History. Johnny Valentine, Greg Valentine's father, defeats Joe Scarpa. Anybody? Anyone? Anyone? Anybody? Bueller? 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 Chief J. Strongbow. Johnny Valentine defeats Joe Scarpa, a.k.a. Chief J. Strongbow, for the NWA Florida heavyweight title in Tampa. 1967, look it up. 1986, let's jump ahead. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Terry Taylor defeat Bill Irwin from the Irwin Brothers and Leroy Brown for the UWF Tag Team titles in Fort Worth, Texas. 1987, Greg Gagne defeats Adrian Adonis in the finals for the AWA International TV Championship in Las Vegas. On the same night, Medusa defeats Candy Devine for the AWA Women's title. And the reason I say that and bring it up, not only is it this day in history, in July of 1987, that's when Sherry left. That's right, sensational Sherry Martel left to go to the WWE when she was the AWA Women's Champion, vacating the AWA Ladies Championship. So on this day in history, 1987, that's when Medusa defeated Candy Devine. How about that for sources and for history here on Chaos Corner? 1987, one of the biggest moments in history, especially for all my friends. Again, Konnichiwa and the Pac Rim. New Japan and All Japan. We're always talking about who's better, history, New Japan, All Japan, everything that's related to Japanese, Porosao, all the wrestling and history for all the gaijins and everyone else over there in Tokyo. Here we go. From Sumo Hall in Tokyo, Japan, 1987, this day in history. Big Van Vader shows up and obliterates Antonio Inoki, knocking him out, pinning Inoki with a legendary power slam, causing riots there in Tokyo. The match lasted less than 3 minutes at Sumo Hall. Now, the reason, the significance, not only did he destroy the legend who just got finished competing and winning a tournament there for New Japan, on the same night, Big Van Vader, a.k.a. The Bull, Leon White, was supposed to show up and debut for All Japan. So tell me how many of you fans knew that out there? How about that for 1987? New Japan, All Japan. Vader was supposed to go to All Japan, pulled the old switcheroo, dunkaroo, do-si-do, dipsy-roo, exit stage left, and ended up destroying Inoki over in New Japan, which went on to a huge war and ratings and crowds like you wouldn't believe over in Japan, between All Japan and New Japan. And the history of pro wrestling over there in Japan is unbelievable. I say it all the time. People talk about the history of wrestling in Mexico, and that's right, always in chains. Puerto Rico and different places like that. The history in Japan is unbelievable. So that was 1987. Also, 1989, on this day in history, we talk about people that have passed. Tiny Lister, Zeus. 1989, what a concept. Listen up, fans. No Holds Barred, the movie and the match, aired on pay-per-view from Nashville, Tennessee. Okay? They showed the movie first on pay-per-view, and then a taped steel cage match from a couple of days before in Nashville between Hogan and Brutus Beefcake and Zeus and the Macho Man. But how about that for advertising, marketing, putting everything together and putting that up on pay-per-view? You get to see No Holds Barred, which back then was huge with Hogan and leading, coming off Rocky 3 as Thunder Lips and rock and wrestling and WrestleMania. And this is where it was in the middle and late 80s leading into the 90s. There was no better time. So how about that? 1989, this date in history. Don't go anywhere because I have more. Just when you think we're over, I have more. And the views and the likes and subscribes are going up, and I can't thank you enough for that, fans. I owe it all to you. What else do we have on this date in history? Because there's a lot. There's a lot, and you're going to see a theme here as we keep this under an hour here. Live to tape, same day coverage. 1991. Bill Irwin from the Irwin Brothers and Black Bart over Johnny Tatum and Rod Price. That's right. Figure out those names from World Class Championship Wrestling if you know your history when they win the Global Wrestling Federation Tag Team titles in Dallas, Texas. That's right. Bill Irwin and Black Bart over Hollywood John Tatum and Rod Price. Now, Hollywood John Tatum, who was his former manager? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? I cannot hear you, Captain. Jim, I'm only a doctor. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Missy Hyatt was Hollywood John Tatum's manager back to World Class Championship Wrestling. See, that's what you get here. Did you see what I did there? I think you did. So that's 1991, this day in history also. Now, here is where I believe Starrcade, WCW, storylines, things that I talk about all the time, psychology, storytelling, emotional investment, making people want to come back, but telling the story. This is where I believe WCW and Starrcade look at the tracks that started going downhill as I read the storylines, see what you pick out here. Who wrote this? Where's the creative? Who was in charge at this time? Jim Herd, Crockett Promotion? Figure it out. 1993, this day in history, Starrcade 93 from Charlotte, North Carolina. Pretty Wonderful, Paul Orndorff and Pretty Paul Roma go over on Buff Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio. Terry Taylor in a dark match over the Equalizer. The Shockmaster. Everybody remembers the debut of the Shockmaster. Research it. I know I keep saying that. I want you to do your homework. If I have to do mine, you have to do yours. Shockmaster over King Kong, and that's not King Kong Bundy. For the WCW TV title, Steven Regal, Lord Steven Regal, over Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Well, it wasn't over. It was a 15-minute draw. Lord Steven Regal, and on that note, because I'm always prepared, fans, and we haven't covered it yet. We didn't get over it to my book review section, but Lord Steven Regal, 93 Starrcade. Fans, I suggest this book. Walk a Golden Mile. Lord Steven Regal, William Regal, if you will. Again, a great read. It's a thick book. Okay, Regal's a smart guy. Okay, on the back here. So I want to suggest this here in the middle of show 24, since we're talking about Lord Steven Regal, and I'm in the middle of thumbing through this again. So at that point, he's a draw with Ricky Steamboat. A lot to be said for that, but look at the characters, the gimmicks, the storylines here in 93. And now remember, Roma's still there with Orndorff as Pretty Wonderful. He transitioned from Power and Glory in the WWF, and the Stallions and Jim Powers and the Four Horsemen, now Pretty Wonderful. And vice versa. Also on that show, Starrcade 93, Steve Austin, not Stone Cold Steve Austin, Steve Austin. That's why I said it that way. Steve Austin, not Stone Cold 316, over Dustin Rhodes in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the U.S. title in WCW. And what's unique about this? is that it was in two falls. Dustin got disqualified in the first fall, and then Austin pinned him in the second fall. So it didn't even go to third fall, which is rare in your 2 out of 3 fall storylines. So that's Starrcade 93 also. Sting and Hawk teamed up to defeat the Nasty Boys via disqualification, so which means it was a nothing match, a throwaway. Animal was injured at that point at the 93 Starrcade, and the Nasty Boys retained the WCW Tag Team titles. Sting and Hawk against the Nasty Boys again. You see where the storylines were going. They had Shockmaster on here, Terry Taylor, the Equalizer, King Kong, dark match for Taylor. And then in the main event, Flair defeats Vader to win the WCW title. And the significance there is it was the end of Vader's third reign, and he never held the WCW title after that, I believe, and went on to Japan infamy, even more so, and the WWF. So 93 Starrcade, this date in history, which leads me into 94 Starrcade, this date in history. They always ran around the same time. You'll notice that if you go back to the Starrcade days in the 90s, they kept it around the holidays. Here on Starrcade 94 from Nashville, Vader over Hacksaw Jim Duggan for the U.S. title of WCW. That's when Harley Race was with Duggan and managing him, and actually plunked Hacksaw on the noggin with the 2x4 for Vader to get the win. Now you're going to see the trending storylines of disqualifications, outside interference, storylines that don't really go with the old school wrestling of that time. But this was the downfall before we got to Monday Night Wars and how it transitioned owners and different things they were doing wrong with cash and with storylines. It's all well documented. That's what I bring to you here. We're under an hour. Don't go anywhere yet. We're not over yet. On that same card, Starrcade 94, Nashville, Alex Wright pinned Paul Levesque. That's right, Paul Levesque. Paul Levesque. Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Is this getting old yet? Bueller? Renee Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, loses to Das Wunderkind. Boy, have times changed. You go and you meet the boss's daughter, and the rest is history. Johnny B. Bad, a.k.a. Mark Merrow, in a TV title, pinned the enforcer, Arn Anderson, the Nasty Boys over Harlem Heat via disqualification. Great tag team division, but the storylines, look at all this different nonsense that you have here. Mr. T made his way down to WCW by then, and the whole crazy angle with the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, and his brother, David Sullivan. Talk about the brain of a dehydrated baby. So Mr. T defeats Kevin Sullivan. David Sullivan came out as Santa Claus. Seeing that we're just getting over Christmas here, I'll mention that. It's this day in history. What do you want from me? I'm just going by the facts. Also on that show, Sting by disqualification over Avalanche. This is when all the stars were hopping back and forth. Kevin Sullivan interfered again. He's all over on Starrcade at 94. Hogan made the save for Sting. You see the inter-storylines, no real storylines, total confusion in WCW at this time in 93 and 94 and where they're going with storylines. I remember it then as a man and 30 years old. I mean, early 30s. And in the main event, Hogan went on to defeat The Butcher for the WCW heavyweight title. Who? The Butcher from AEW? The Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny? No, who? The Butcher? I'm Abdullah the Butcher? No. The Butcher? Anyone? Buell? Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I don't want to get crazy with the Bueller thing. Yeah, so he ended up being attacked by the Faces of Fear Hogan. Macho Man made the save for Hogan. So look at all this. Kevin Sullivan, David Sullivan as Santa Claus. The Hogan's making a save. Macho Man makes the save. The Faces of Fear with Ming and Haku and the Barbarian and Kevin Sullivan and King Curtis Iokea. Pehea Oi Melehini Kane. Pupule Wiki Wiki. Mahalo, brother. So you see what was going on there with Starrcade and how things were really changing on this day in history. How ironic. really starting to change. Let's see what else we have here. I know we have also trending here 95 Starcade from Nashville. As the storylines, as you see what's happening here, ECW at this point has exploded onto the scene. The Attitude Eras are ready to take off in WWF. They're going to take the F out, and it's going to become the WWE. And a lot of things happening here in 95 Starcade Nashville for WCW. First off, Flair has to beat Sting and Luger in a three-way title shot, and he does via countout to get a title shot later on that night at the then champion, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. So you see what's going on here for you fans that weren't old enough to be around in the early, middle, into the later 90s. What a time and change for the world of pro wrestling. Flair went on that night in the main event to defeat Randy Savage. And you know how? And again, look at the storylines, look at the interruptions, look what they're doing here to the company, and who's in charge of the book, who's at Gorilla at this time. Go back and do your research. Who's in charge? People talk about Bischoff or Russo later on and all that different stuff. Look at who's in charge of who's running stuff down there at WCW. Flair won the title because Arn hit Savage with the brass knuckles. You never even hear about brass knuckles anymore. So not only did Flair have to get in a three-way, which he won by countout, he then wins the title by using the brass knuckles, Arn using them on Macho Man. So that's what came out of 95 Starcade. You see where it's trending, and we'll even bounce up a few years here before I close it off here on show number 24. Starcade 98 in Washington, D.C., and continuing, years later in Starcade and WCW, and where they went wrong and how they survived, and the different talent that jumped back and forth between different organizations, and the involvement and the growth of ECW. 98 Starcade, Washington, D.C., WCW TV title, Conan submits Y2J, Les Champions, a little bit of the bubbly, the over 50 demo god? I think not. When Jericho was at his hottest, well, maybe not as hottest because he's pretty hot now, 1998 Starcade, Conan submits Jericho for the WCW TV title. Also on that one, Billy Kidman, local connection to Mikey Batts, Kidman defeats Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrero, and then goes on to defeat Eddie Guerrero for the cruiserweight title, I believe. So look at that. Billy Kidman, a big part in 98. You can see how the product has changed. Machismo Eddie Guerrero is now losing to guys like Billy Kidman. No disrespect to Kidman. Also, this is where you can see who's writing. No, this is not rocket science. Eric Bischoff defeats Ric Flair. You heard it here. Eazy-E, Eric Bischoff defeated Ric Flair, 1998 Starcade, Washington, D.C. Go check it out on YouTube. Diamond Dallas Page defeats the Giant Paul Wright. Kevin Nash, this is the significance of that night, 98 Starcade fans. It's infamous. Go out there and look it up. Not just here on Chaos Corner. Nash defeats Goldberg and stops his 170-plus winning streak in WCW and wins the WCW heavyweight title. This day in history with the Guardian of Chaos on Chaos Corner. So fans, a lot of different things that night. If you remember at the ending of that bout, how did Nash stop the streak? And I'll do it one more time before we wrap it up here and keep it at just about an hour. Live to tape on a Sunday. Anyone? Anyone? How did Nash stop Goldberg's 170-plus streak in WCW? Starcade 98, Washington, D.C. Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? Hall tased Goldberg. Bzzzt. Hall tased Goldberg. There you go. That's how it ends. So a lot of interesting things on this date in history at Chaos Corner, in the IWC, in pro wrestling, whether we go all the way back where we started at 1967 to where we end off here in 98 for this week in history. And there's a lot of other stuff that I can go through. But fans, I can't thank you enough for being here. I wanted to pay homage and tribute to those we've lost here on 2020. We're coming up on an hour. impromptu, same day, live to tape. Thanks for being here. Follow me on all social media platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Parler, Rumble, Gab. Don't you dare miss it. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos. And I'll say that to say this as we wrap up show number 24 from Chaos Corner. There's three types of people in this world: those who don't know what happened, those who wonder what happened, and people like the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, that make things happen. God bless. Don't you dare miss it.